evening, everyone. Want to first and foremost thank all of you for taking time out to join us this evening in what I believe will be a very important discussion. The discussion is going to surround the state of education for the black child in Paterson, New Jersey. And I want to just thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know a lot of people have been doing a lot of things today. It was a busy day for many of us, so I want to first thank all of you who are watching virtually. I want to thank you who submitted questions, and I want to thank those who are watching and plan on submitting questions during this broadcast. My name is Dr. Weldon McWilliams. I'm the pastor of the Christ Temple Baptist Church right here in Paterson. I am so grateful and thankful to be moderating this panel alongside my co-moderator, Sister Paula, Alford, wherever you are. And if you're in here, let's put our hands together. She'll come up shortly. I also want to give thanks to these panelists who took time out of their busy schedule to come be a part of this panel. And I thank them for being a part of this panel. And they will introduce themselves at the right time. Before we get started, I'm going to ask if we can all bow our heads in prayer. We are in sanctuary. We are in the place of God. So I want to start this conversation off and start this event off in the right way, and that's going to God in prayer. Let us bow our heads. Most holy and everlasting Father, we come to you right now, first and foremost, to say thank you. We thank you for this opportunity to bring us together, and we thank you for the opportunity to come together, to discuss, to share knowledge, to share ideas, to share our thoughts and our concerns about the state of education for black children in Paterson, New Jersey. We pray, Lord God, that what takes place here today will be pleasing in thy sight. We pray that we will not just have rhetoric, but the rhetoric that is shared today will encourage us to move toward action. These and all other blessings we ask in the matchless name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank God for all of you. I'm going to ask if that cameraman can zoom on me a little bit, just a little bit. I want to first make this claim, and I just want to basically state the reason why we are here tonight. This idea, this vision came to me from God, nonetheless, came from God, and I felt God encouraging me to start having some what I'm calling courageous conversations within the church, outside the church, but I believe the church has to be part of these courageous conversations. And one of the items in which I feel compelled to want to be a part of is defining what is our agenda. And when I say our, what is our agenda? The community, black community, what is our agenda? How are we going about moving about the important aspects of our community? What are we doing in the realm of education? What are we doing in the realm of organizing? What are we doing in the realm of politics? What are we doing in the realm of spirituality and faith? What are we doing to move our community forward? And I thought it would be very important to start having some of these courageous conversations, and I was looking for different places in which to hold these conversations, and the Lord said, well, don't forget, you are the pastor of a church. You have a place in which you could have some of these conversations. And I must make this disclaimer that I am unapologetically black. I am unapologetically Christian. I am always concerned about what is happening and what's going on in our community. And I know that there are issues and that there are problems that extend far beyond the black community, but I don't believe anybody in the black community should be made to feel some type of way because they are worried or they seek to address issues that are specific to the black community or solutions that are specific for the black community. So I have a motto that I first heard at Trinity Church in Chicago. They're unashamedly Christian and unapologetically black. And that's how I live my life. And I hope that no one here will feel offended in any sort of way because this particular topic is centered and focused on the black child here in Paterson. So with that said, I don't intend to keep you long. My hope is that we can have a fruitful conversation for about 90 minutes, and we will ask our panelists, who are made up of members of the Board of Education here in Paterson and educators. We will ask them questions, and we will listen to their responses. Panelists, you have mics in front of you. All you have to do is when you pick up the mic, you just hold that green button. It's not a green button, I'm sorry. Hold that button, it'll turn green. The green light will come on, and then that mic will be able to work for you. All right, so I'm going to ask the first question, and I'm going to ask this question to each of you. So we'll start right here you're to my right, and we're going to ask that you just state your name and where you're from, and then you will answer the question. So the first question to the panel: how do you define education? What is education to you?
Good evening, everyone. This is Commissioner Valerie Freeman, lifelong Paterson resident. Education to me is being able to acquire the knowledge and grasping and understanding what you have been taught. It's important that children understand what they're being taught in order to move forward in life. Because if they don't understand it, they can't move forward. So the importance is to grasp the information that you're getting and being able to take that information and go along your daily life. There are many different levels to learning. Some children are quick at it with learning. Some children are slow at it. But the type of education that we need to provide and what it means to me is an education that has given me the opportunity to move forward in life, knowing the basic skills that I need to know to get by in life, and understanding and grasping what I've been taught. And that's what education means. If we can't teach these children how to go out in society and be productive, then we have failed them. So it's very important that every educator that teaches our children, and I have to reiterate our black children because we're already behind the ball, education is very important, and we need to push it, and we need to make sure that they have full understanding and that they are grasping the knowledge that they're being given and able to move on in life and be productive in today's society.
Good evening. I'm Commissioner Kenneth Simmons, lifelong Paterson resident, member of the Paterson Board of Education. I'm just going to piggyback on what Commissioner Freeman said, because I think with this panel you'll find a lot of the answers similar. But education, to me, is the process of learning, but not just learning to learn, but learning to think critically, preparing yourself for growth and preparing yourself to become a productive citizen. It's simply learning and continuous learning. I like to say that I'm a lifelong learner. And some of the things I like to see with our students is that we prepare them to become lifelong learners. So that education is consistent and it's constant and it's continuous. So that is what education is for me.
Good evening. My name is Taya Snell Tan, life resident of Paterson. I'm almost 30 years into education in the Paterson School District. What is education to me? There are two forms of education. There's formal education and then there's informal education. Formal education, of course, is yes in the classroom, high school, college. But informal education is when you educate through the community, you educate culturally, you educate just lifelong community, what help our students and our children just to go on in life and know our life skills. Yes, we get education in the classroom, but we also have to educate our children what happens in life. That's what education means to me.
Good evening. I'm Lolita Vaughn, former principal of school number 10 here in Paterson and an educator in the Paterson Public School for over 33 years. It gives me great pleasure to sit here with fellow colleagues as we discuss the need of Black education, educating our children here in Paterson. But what does education means to me? Education, just to reiterate what some of the colleagues have just said, that is a process. Hello? Education to me is a process for equipping students with knowledge. It's empowering students with the skill set of developing their interpersonal communication skills, literacy development, and it empowers the students to set personal goals and careers for professional goals in life. As one of our colleagues said, that education extends beyond the textbook in the classroom. It is about developing the whole child intellectually, socially, emotionally, civically, and in doing so, it takes a collective effort of all of us, school leaders, civic leaders, community leaders, teachers, and students. But most meaningful, education as a student of Paterson Public Schools, a product of Paterson Public Schools, a product of the Fourth Ward community, education empowered me to dream and live beyond. Thank you.
Good evening. Dr. Zatiti Moody, principal, high school principal here in Paterson. The definition to education for me is simply an eclectic array of experiences that enable the process for gaining and acquiring knowledge and passing it down from one generation to the next. Simply put, for me, in a quote, those who learn must teach. So we gain and gather information in life, and we are obligated to pass it down generation to generation. Thank you.
Yep, Commissioner Corey Teague, lifelong Paterson resident as well. The answer to that question has really been answered by the panel, but I'll just add this to it, that education is a process that begins the day that you're born, and it ends the day that you leave this world and go to the next. So every single day of your life, you're going to be learning. And this transcends not even the classroom, but even a person's individual abilities. Even if you're disabled, there's still a process of learning there. There's still a level of education where you even have to learn how to pick things up or crawl or walk, whatever the case is. So learning is definitely a process, and it is a lifelong process. And I'm glad to be here tonight to discuss it.
Answering and introducing yourselves. From what I'm hearing on the live stream, we're a little low, so we're working on that. Those who are watching, we are working on the audio so that you can hear. I'm going to ask our panelists in the meantime, just maybe speak a little bit louder, but it is an issue on our side. We're going to try to make sure we turn the volume all the way up. The second question, what do you see, and this is more towards the Board of Education, but everybody I want to answer this, but what do you see as the biggest challenge that the public educational system in Paterson is facing? I want to start with Commissioner Freeman and work it all the way down to Commissioner Teague. And if you could use that microphone, can we use that mic right now until we fix the volume? Thank you so much.
Money is the biggest obstacle that we are facing here in Paterson Public Schools. We need to be fully funded. Without that, we're going to always struggle. Another issue for me is retaining quality teachers and being able to compete with the salaries, outside of this district. The amount of money that leaves our district, it's like a strangle. They strangling us, and it's only but so much that we can do because we're not fully funded. So that's the most important thing, because without money you can't do anything. You can't offer new ideas for the children to look at. You can't give incentives for the teachers to want to do well, and money is the biggest issue right now for me, because without the money, and when you look at the salaries that are in this district right now, it's heavy, very, very heavy. And until we come up with a plan, or until we're fully funded, and even if we're fully funded, we still will have challenges, because you need money to get things done. You need money to offer different programs, different reading programs, math programs, science programs. All of it comes with money, and we just don't have it. And you see the budget, you see how big our budget is, and then automatically people think, oh, we're doing something wrong with the money. No, if you sit down and you go through that budget, you will see that the money is being spent the best way it can be spent. So money for me is a big problem. We need to be fully funded, and it's time really to make noise. It's really time to make some noise down in Trenton so that they can hear us. And until we begin to do that, we're just going to be right on the wayside, on the side of the road, going through the same thing over and over again. So, they talk about change. We need to change those things, and we need to get everybody committed and included in fighting for Paterson Public Schools and the children.
Thank you. So funding is always a big issue, but I'm going to take that a step further, because also student attendance is a huge issue with Paterson. And so when we talk about specifically black children, right, we're about 19% of the district, but we are black children of absent 40% of the time, right? So that's a huge issue, right? And our funding is tied to attendance. And so typically, by October 15th, we have to supply numbers to the state, and they look at our attendance rates and those types of things. And so those things are tied to the funding. And so we can't actually get the funding unless we have students in the seats, right? And so I'm going to tie that also to parent engagement. Right? So back to school night, I was talking to a high school teacher. At back to school night, he had 2 parents showed up for 4 hours. They were there for, I believe, 4 hours, 2 hours? 2 hours, but only 2 parents showed up. And so those 2 things are huge for me. Funding is always going to be an issue, especially because there are other factors that are tied to that. But student attendance and parental engagement are 2 huge issues.
Everybody can answer that. Everyone. The biggest challenge in the public educational system.
Okay. Well, it's two-pronged. It's definitely in terms of the funds. If I can just go back briefly to 2008, there was a landmark ruling made by the New Jersey Supreme Court which dealt with the School Funding Reform Act. And even then, Chris Christie was the governor at the time, and he pretty much streamlined the funding formula for all the districts in the state, where many people would consider that to say, well, that's fair because everybody's getting the same amount, and that only deals with equality but not equity. And they purposely did that to strike a blow at equity. Equity says, if I have to give you a little bit more just so you can match the district that's next to you, if that's what needs to happen, that's what needs to happen. And that's not what happened with Paterson. So that illegal underfunding that took place in 2008, we're still reaping the repercussions of that back then. Because we have issues now where, for instance, I can't call any names, but a special education teacher that's been in this district 15 years and have dedicated their time and effort here left and went to Newark because Paterson was unable or not agreeable to matching what Newark was trying to do, and it wasn't a whole lot. And this is one of the biggest issues I have in this district, and I've been saying it in terms of being too top-heavy and not appreciating the people who are actually in the room with the students, because if we don't have some appreciation for the educators that are in the building, then that is going to trickle down. That low morale will trickle down into the students that are in the classroom. So if a teacher is feeling depressed to come to work because they don't feel appreciated, if you don't think that that energy will trickle on to the students, you're crazy. They're going to feel that energy from the teacher, but if a teacher comes to school and they feel excited, they feel like they have a district that's behind them, then that energy will flow onto the students, and the students will begin to work with the educator. But it's very hard as an educator to show up to a classroom when you don't even feel like you have the support of the district behind you, and then you still have to put out an enormous amount of energy and effort for the students. So it's a combination of funding. There may be some issues, of course, with absenteeism, but it's also a matter of the district showing that they actually appreciate the people that come here every day to work with our children.
Thank you very much for that. I concur with a lot of what you said. However, for me, the biggest issue that we face for the entire system is holding the system accountable for ensuring that the process of gaining and acquiring knowledge is happening for all students, creating a relentless culture and focus on learning at all costs. True, it is true, staff shortages, financial shortages, chronic absenteeism, apathy, poverty, socioeconomic pressures, inability to implement best practices due to competing interests with contract negotiations and political influences. That is my answer to that question.
I'd just like to add that I do agree that the biggest challenge is the systematic underfunding and the inequitable resource distribution. I'm speaking on from a perspective of a principal of a school that's located in one of the most impoverished communities, the Fourth Ward community in Paterson. And when I speak on inequitable resource distribution, I'm talking about within the Paterson Public School itself. And how do we distribute those resources to schools that are located in those communities that have so many needs, And these issues are compounded by the socioeconomic instability of many parents and families. So if I'm a school 10 and I'm located on Mercer Street and my building still needs to be upgraded because it is over a 100-year-old building and the school has some facility issues, need access to more technology and support services to enhance the student learning. And if I go cross town in another area, their facilities are updated. They have additional resources that they need. So when we look at inequities, we also have to take a closer look at the inequities that are in the school system itself. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm an educator in a classroom where there are multiple challenges in the classroom. Holding everyone accountable, teachers, parents, administration, that can be a big challenge. Accountability is something that we all have to own. Yes, there is a teacher shortage. And when there's a teacher shortage, the problem falls on the teachers in that particular building where there is a missing teacher in a classroom. So yes, not having teachers in the class, in the building, and holding certain subjects, it does become a challenge for the teachers that are still in the building working and coming to school every day to make sure that our children are learning. Holding parents accountable is challenging because yes, parents do not show up for back to school night. They do not show up for report card night. So how are us as educators able to communicate with the parents face to face to discuss what's going on with your child when the parent does not show up? So there are multiple challenges that we face, but being in the classroom, yes, we see them, but accountability is something that we all need to take on, or just own accountability.
Thank you so much. Just want to remind the panelists and those who are watching, we are getting all the messages about the volume. Thank you. We are working on it. In the meantime, we're going to definitely continue to encourage our panelists to speak in the mic, but we are working on that volume, and I hope that you all can hear it a little bit better than when we started. Question 3, and this is for the members of the Board of Education. In Paterson, many see a seat on the Board of Education as a stepping stone into the world of local electoral politics. So the question that is being asked is, why did you want a seat on the Paterson Board of Education?
I'm not going to take all night, Kenneth. That's not me. I'm just going to come straight out and say it. I'm not here to use this school board as a stepping stone. I'm in it for different reasons, and unfortunately, it's not political for me. It's not to throw any shade, but we keeping it real here, Pastor, or no?
Yes, we're going to keep it real.
Okay, then thank you. Because many use the Board of Education as a stepping stone to move forward. That's not what I'm here for. I've been involved in the school board for over 30 years, well before my children were in public school. I was taught by one of the best women to ever do it as far as teaching the parents how to advocate for your children and other children. And the things that I were taught at those parent conferences, I use today. I share them today. I encourage parents from the way it was given to me. And it was straightforward. They kept it real with you. And that's what we're lacking here. We can all beat around the bush and say and use all those big fancy words, but the gist of it is you have to want to be involved. And as parents, I can't implore you enough the importance of you staying involved in your child's education. We went to conferences that taught us how to speak to the principal, how to speak to the superintendent, how to speak to the teacher. They're not getting that. They're not getting that now. And that's a problem for me because it's almost as if you don't want them to advocate. But nobody can advocate for your children better than you. And I'm not here to move up. I'm not. That's not my thing. I'm not in this for politics and political reasons. And it's a shame that some are. But, you know, this is what we like and this is what we love. And this is how people move up into the city council. Then from city council, then you want to be the mayor, and then you want to go further. But that's your choice. I'm not going to knock it. But for me, it's about the children, making sure that they get everything that they deserve, making sure that the teachers are paid, and making sure that the teachers do what they're supposed to do. And also the administration. I'm all about transparency, accountability, being fair, and you got to be trustworthy. If I don't trust you, how do you expect me to trust you with my children? But yeah, we could go deeper in that, but I'm not going to take all the time because I don't want to go to the left. But no, Big V is not in it to move up the political ladder like so many have done, and that some are looking to do. That's not me. I'm here for the children. There's always going to be children over politics for me, and that's just it. This is what you get, and I'm not going to change it.
Can you, before you pass the mic, there's a request, can you just again state your name and your title?
I'm Commissioner Valerie Freeman, lifelong Paterson resident. I'm a commissioner on the Board of Education of Paterson.
Thank you.
I'll just say my name again. Kenneth L. Simmons, lifelong resident Paterson and commissioner on the Paterson Board of Education. So for me, why I first ran for the board, it started when I was coaching football. And part of me coaching and having some kids not doing their homework or not performing well in school, we started to tutor kids after football practice or before football practice, or we had some rules where if you weren't doing well in school, you couldn't play, on the weekend. In terms of folks running for political, for whatever reason, Dr. Moody talked about it earlier in the previous question. Those folks run because they want to have political influence. And that political influence often does not bode well when you're trying to move the district forward. And so you need consistency in terms of leadership. And when I say leadership, I mean board members. So we have this thing happening now where there's almost a new board member every year, right? So you're not being consistent because now someone is coming along with a different ideology and a different agenda and trying to fulfill someone else's political purpose. This current board, we not long ago got local control back from the state after 30 some odd years. This current board, we are going backwards, right? So it took us a long time and a lot of work to get to the space where the state says you can have control back. And so it's important that we remain consistent. You can't move the district forward. We have to root out the political, I forgot what Dr. Moody called it, influences, because those things often you see where we can't keep teachers or we can't keep educators because folks have other political agendas. So I am here for the long haul, and actually I'm approaching my 17th year on the board, and I'm hoping that we can get Commissioner Freeman on that road to approaching her 17th year.
If we could have Commissioner Teague, yes.
Yep, so for me, Commissioner Corey Teague, Paterson School Board. This would be this is my 7th year on the board, but not consecutive because in 2008, I originally ran after my daughter experienced some issues at Concerned Parents for Head Start, and it wasn't based on Concerned Parents for Head Start, it was based on the fact that at that time, Chris Christie flat funded Paterson Public Schools. And the child study team basically told me that her PT and OT were going to be scaled back because funding had been taken away. And so that was in 08. 09, we went to the New Jersey Supreme Court, a group of parents, and we filed a lawsuit with the New Jersey Supreme Court through the Education Law Center in Newark against the district for failing to fulfill the services within the IEPs and the 504 plans. Long story short, it ruled in our favor. Compensatory services were required. Hundreds of students benefited from it. It wasn't until 2012 that I actually decided to run, and we won that year. But I lost it. No, I'm going somewhere with this. In 2015, I lost my re-election. I ran again in 2016, lost again. I came back in 2018 to run again, lost again. I ran again in 2019, and I won. 2022, I lost again, and then I decided to run again in 2023 and in 2024, and I won again in 2024. I'm saying that because in all of that time, from 2012 until now, I had every opportunity to run for city council, to run for some county position, to run for any other seat. But my focus has always been the children. There's a Swahili proverb that basically says, how are the children? Because if the children aren't good, I don't care what else is going on. If the children aren't good, then we're not good. And I think there's this pervasive sense in the community that you have not arrived until you've matriculated from the school board onto the council. Even my family was trying to say that. Say, well, you know, that's how you get started. I know that's how you finish. You can build a legacy by being a consistent school board member over the years who fought hard. We have people like Dr. Hodges, who dedicated decades to fighting for children. He never ran for any other seat, but he has a legacy. You cannot say Dr. Hodges' name without referring to education in Paterson, because he built that leg. For instance, Al Moody, that's another name. Wahida Muhammad. There are people who actually built their legacies off of making sure that children were treated correctly in the classroom. That has to trump everything else that you're trying to do or you're trying to do for yourself. And so that's the reason why I've consistently, even though, you know, they say, "Mom, why do you keep wasting your time running for the school board?" The children actually matter to me. And if the children don't matter to you, it doesn't matter if you have all the political connections on earth. Sooner or later, like my grandmother used to say, your slip is hanging. Pretty soon people will begin to see that it's never been about the children for you. That's all I got.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to remind all those who are watching that please submit your questions in the comments. We want to make sure that we make a concerted effort to address some of the questions that you may have. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comment box, and if it's something that we can address and ask our panelists today, we will make sure to do so. I want to bring up now one who I reached out to when this vision came to me, and I asked her if she would help me moderate this panel. She has roots here in Paterson. She organizes and here in Paterson, and I'm just thankful and grateful for her working alongside me into bringing this panel together. I'm going to bring on our co-moderator for this event, I'm in church, right? Miss Paula Alford. If we can just put our hands together, our virtual hands, everybody here, she's going to ask the next few questions.
Thank you so much, Reverend McWilliams, for actually allowing me to be a part of your vision. And I also want to thank the panelists for giving up their evening to come and be a part of this event, and we'll just keep the energy going. This question is for our commissioners. How much influence does the Board of Education have over curriculum?
Technically, in a perfect world, the Board of Education is supposed to have the top level of influence in terms of, because we're the ones that actually are supposed to set the basis for how this actually goes. There's supposed to be a committee in a normal world. And the reason why I'm saying in a normal world is because there's been a lot that has happened with this particular board. The four of us were pretty much shoved out of that entire process, and that's a long story. I don't want to get into that too deep. But in a normal world, we would review what's going on. It would be presented to us by the administration. When I say administration, I'm not talking about the SAY administration, because they even got that mixed up. I'm talking about the administration for the district. In normal circumstances, they would present what the curriculum is, where we are, where we've been, where we're headed. But because there is such a divide on the board right now, it has not worked the way it's supposed to work, with all of us being made aware of what's going on. I can only speak for myself. So when it comes to curriculum, yes, we're supposed to have an influence as to how things flow in and out of the classroom. But it has not worked. When you don't have a board that's working cohesively together for the right reason, it reflects also in the classroom. So to the point that Dr. Moody made with the accountability, yes, even the board, we have to take some ownership and say, hey, are we flowing properly? Because if the head isn't where it needs to be, the rest of the body is going to be out of whack. So that's what's going on right now. In a normal world, yes. But what we have going on right now, we have certain influences influencing the curriculum, if that makes sense. There's certain avenues, certain angles that are influencing it when it should really be the board. But instead, it's just certain personalities that's influencing it. and that needs to change.
Thank you, Commissioner Teague.
So I'll just piggyback on that just a little. So our influence is indirect. It is not direct, right? Because they are the educational professionals. They have the licenses, so they bring it to us. We have the ability to either accept it or vote it down, and say, you know, maybe we want to see this. But in all of that, what they bring us has to be aligned with state standards. Right? So it all has to align, and we can't say, you know, if it doesn't align with state standards, I can't say I want something that doesn't align with that at all. And so our influence is indirect because we have to make sure we have to vote on it, we have to accept it, we have to approve it, we have to also make sure that the funding is there for it, and then we have to support it and make sure that they have the resources, and the resources are allocated properly, so that, you know, that we are moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
We absolutely do have say in the curriculum, but you must also understand that, as Commissioner Teague said, it's a divide on the board that until that divide is corrected, we're moving backwards quickly. And when you get something about the curriculum at the last hour and you're expected to vote on it, that doesn't work for me. There has to be some type of discussion. You know, I need to feel how you feel. I need to see what, you know, where your head is and where everybody else is headed. So we don't have that opportunity to do that, but we have to make a decision. My decision is always going to be no. And until we get to the table and sit down and really thoroughly look at the curriculum that we are offering, and to make sure that it is challenging our students to the best of their ability, we're not going to move forward. The curriculum that we have, as far as I'm concerned, is not challenging enough. We accept mediocre, and that doesn't work for me, because when we send our children out, and some seem to excel well, and some seem not to do well. But when we send them off to college or wherever choice they want to do, the majority of our children have to take those remedial classes before they start their courses. And it shouldn't be. I can use my daughter as an example. She went to Tech. Many of her peers who went to college with her were in remedial classes. She couldn't understand it. But I had to make her understand why that was. And it's because they struggled to pass the basic reading and math skills. And that's crazy. And I can remember when I was in school, we didn't struggle. Like the people that came up in school with me, I didn't see them having to do the remedial classes, the basic skill classes, because the district provided and made sure that we had a curriculum that taught us and instilled in us and gave us the ability to start college on time, start my classes on time. But that's not happening. And if we can't see that we're going backwards, you know, where do we move? How do we move forward? What do we do? Do we remain divided? Can we come to a consensus? I believe that we can. I'm willing to work with anybody, but you know, so much disrespect and so on this board is crazy. And at the end of the day, the CEO of this district, you know, you're going to be held accountable for it. That's the bottom line. We should have a say in it, and it should be a challenging curriculum, but I don't see it as just okay just to get by, just to increase the scores a little bit. No, we got to think outside the box, and we got to think big, because the surrounding towns, they doing it. So why can't we do it? If they're doing it, why can't we do it? that's my biggest problem with the curriculum. And then you got to be careful with allowing teachers to teach whatever they want to teach, because we don't know what they're teaching our children. And, you know, children listen whether we believe it or not. They pay close attention to what's coming out of our mouths. So we have to be real careful when we be like, oh, well, you know, put your little jazz on it. No, because you're not going to teach my child that you believe in, because that's not what it is. So it's just a lot, and I don't want to take it to another avenue, but yeah, some teachers can't teach our children. Some teachers cannot teach our black children. And if this is about black children in their education, our children need to see more teachers who look like me and him and understand what we go through.
Thank you to each of the commissioners for answering that question. We'll move right along. And this question is for the teachers. How often are teachers exposed to different pedagogical practices? And are you free to explore and practice new pedagogical techniques?
Yes, we are exposed to different pedagogical practices. We have professional developments that we are given the opportunity to attend the beginning of the school year. We have them once a month throughout the school year, and it's always based on something new, something to improve, something to enhance the instruction in the classroom. So all the subjects, they all go to different professional developments where they are given the opportunity to explore different practices to bring back to the classrooms. The other part of the question, I think I answered it.
You did. You answered both.
I did?
Yes. It was. Do you feel free to
yes.
explore and practice?
Yes. Well, I mean, I can only speak for myself.
Right.
Yes, I do feel free, and I'm always researching, and looking for things to bring into to the classroom. And like Commissioner Freeman said about the curriculum, I just want to go back a little bit. You're correct. Everyone can't teach our children. For me, I have two girls, 16, 24. One went to the charter school, and one went to Paterson Public Schools. So I was able to see the different curriculums and how one learned and how the other one learned. And I mean, all our children learn differently. And yes, my oldest, she graduated from Rosa Parks, and she did well when she went off to college. No struggles. I mean, any struggle that a normal college student would have, she had. Now, my 16-year-old, she attends Tech. I get to look at that curriculum, and it's quite different. It's different. However, I'm always going to be an advocate for Paterson Public Schools and my daughter. So when we look at the curriculum, and I also had the opportunity to sit on an ELA committee to choose the curriculum for middle schools and high schools, and we were given 5 companies, and we went through them, we grilled them, and I asked specific questions, specifically on spelling and grammar. I know I'm deviating, but we took that out the curriculum, but I was concerned with phonetics, I was concerned with spelling, and I was concerned with grammar, because somehow that has left the curriculum. We don't do penmanship anymore. However, we used to have the signs on the walls, the cursive letters. So the curriculum, yes, the board has to approve it, but when you have the opportunity to sit on the curriculum, to approve the curriculum to what you want to teach our kids, take that opportunity. Like I said, the ELA, that's my thing. I sat on that curriculum board, that committee, to make sure that middle school and the high school got what they needed. Now, whether or not it's given to our kids correctly, I
can't speak on that. But I know for me, yes, we have a plethora of resources from the current curriculum that we have. That's all.
Thank you. Yes, because you're a principal in the school. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so I put a different lens on as an administrator, but I agree with everything that you said though as well. When we look at professional development, the district does provide intensive level of professional development at the teacher level and at the administrative level as well. My only concern is that is not always consistent with the needs of the diverse needs of the teacher, because there's some self-development that needs to be done. And our teachers, every year, they are required to develop what we refer to as a PGP, or Professional Development Plan. And that professional development plan is based on what your need is as a teacher to develop your skill set, and collectively with the administrators' support and the vision of the school as well. But so when I look at it at that lens, teachers need more support on developing their self-development, because they're at different levels in their teaching ability and their skill set. And at the administrative end, yes, you're provided a lot of professional development, but then you have to stop at some level to evaluate and see if that professional development is making a direct impact on student achievement in the classroom, or are you just there receiving it and not utilizing the strategies and the resources that are being given to you. So that's a twofold piece. So we are given professional development, and there's times that sometimes we can be overdeveloped and not time to go back and implement some of those things that need to be implemented in the classroom, whether that's at the teacher level or at the administrative level. So, and then we go in line with standardized assessments. So are we developing students to learn, to be lifelong learners, or are we developing to just pass the test? So we have to look at professional development at a collective lens, so that we'll make sure that teachers are getting the support they need, the resources they need, and also the question asked, are they free to explore those practices? Yes, they're free to explore, but as Commissioner Freeman said earlier, we don't want a free-for-all. So in order to not have the free-for-all, then it goes back at the administrator level, where we as leaders, we have to monitor what we expect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Zatiti Moody, again, principal of College Achieve High School. I have a unique lens on this because I saw this or witnessed this at the Paterson Public Schools and now at the charter school. So a lot of what I'm hearing is pretty accurate. But for the charter school, I heard Ms. Taya Snell speak about her two daughters in the different environments. In Paterson Public Schools, yes, there were a lot of trainings, but they did not appear to be aligned to the curriculum and what are the outcomes of the curriculum we're trying to reach. And the monitoring of what was trained to us and how it's followed up on and how that impacts the teacher moves in the classroom and how it's being monitored and evaluated on a day-to-day basis was out of line. So for College Achieve, I would say yes, the teachers they have the ability to practice new pedagogical techniques daily. We have our PLCs for each subject, which happens every day. So you get an opportunity not only to engage with the teachers in your class, in your school that are teaching it, but we do it as a network. So they're in classrooms with teachers from other cities, and they're talking about a lesson they did that particular day, and how did it go? What were the misconceptions that they planned for? How did they get around the misconceptions and the like? Another really nice strategy that is used at the charter school is that every Friday there is a half a day for students, and we are charged with training teachers on the pedagogy for what we're working on as a district, and the whole district is in line with it. Currently, we are working out of a book here called Get Better Faster, meaning we do not wait only for the 3 times that we are evaluated to see that there's a problem to correct the problem. If we go into a classroom today, we correct the problem today so that tomorrow we are expecting a better classroom, a better environment for learning for the students the very next day. So when I said there are a lot of political influences that prevent this from happening, there are strategies that are out there that are working in other schools, but for some reason we're not able to implement those in some of the public schools due to some of the contract negotiations, et cetera. But there are some things that we have and we know that are working, and I would just encourage all schools to, whether it's a private school, public school, or charter school, if there is something that is working, let's look at it. Let's see if we can find ways to incorporate those things into our plan.
Thank each of you for answering that question. The next question. In a school district that is only 16 to 19% black, how are black children faring in the public school system in Paterson, New Jersey? And when we say faring, we're speaking about advocacy, we're speaking about representation. And that's to each of you.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, due to a lot of issues outside of the classroom, in many instances, our children are, I would say, thriving. They're pushing through a lot of very, very, very difficult situations within the home. I often speak about how what families have to go through in the home and outside the classroom can trickle into the classroom as well. So in terms of faring in our district, I would say that our students are doing the best they can with what they have. Can we provide more? Should we provide more? Absolutely. Do I think that, you know, the recent raises that were given to the top-notch officials could have been utilized more so in the classrooms? Absolutely. That's why I voted against it. I think there needs to be more concentration on our children. Every other group, I'm just going to say this, every other group focuses on their group, if that makes sense. Every other group, no matter what they may say to everyone else, they will make sure that the people within their group are together except us. We're the only ones that will say, oh, well, it doesn't matter if they're black. We got to change that mentality and start saying, look, what do we have in place for our children as well so that they have a chance to get through just like everybody else does? Because I would not mind having a school year where all of the valedictorians or majority of the valedictorians and salutatorians look like us. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with wanting to see that? So, I mean, in terms of the word faring, I would say that given what tools they have, they're doing the best they can. And I'm including my child in that equation as well, because he's also a black student in Paterson Public Schools. So I'm going to say that, you know, in terms of faring, they're doing the best they can with what they have. But I do think we need to offer them a lot more.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. For me, how are the black children faring? I have to say and ask the question as opposed to what group. I mean, the Latino group is 70% of our population. Asian group, 5%, well, 6%. Whites are 5%. Fourth grade ELA scores are 20% in comparison to statewide 51%. So what group is doing so great here? So I have to look at it in comparison to what are we doing as a community and how we're performing. And can we change that performance? And what do we need to do to change that performance? We all know, again, this is not my stuff. I was a part of the system as well for many years, but it was not until I had an opportunity to work at the charter school under the leadership of Dr. Mills, our chief academic officer. He has some goals for all children. And he understands that one of our strong goals is 100% of all third graders will be reading on grade level as measured by the NJSLA at the end of third grade year, and numerating in math at that time. If they're able to do that, they're now better able to do all of the things that we said. They can interpret the world around them. You give them challenges, they find a way through it because they can read, write, and numerate. So we have to be laser focused on ensuring that that happens for all kids by third grade. So we're not worried about what's happening fourth, fifth, sixth. They can read, they can write. Now we have to take that springboard and ensure that they're able to interpret the world around them from the knowledge that they have and make decisions that are best for themselves. So I believe that we have the power to do that, and there's some things that we can do to ensure that we have better results. We can't say that in a year we're going to be matching the state or national averages, but we can do better than 20%. That's my thoughts.
Thank you.
A few years ago, I met someone by the name of Robert Jackson when I was at Harvard attending one of the urban leadership conferences. And I brought him to Paterson to spend some time with my staff and to educate them on how to educate our Black and our Latino males. And one of his books was No More Excuses. No More Excuses. And we have to equip our educators, teachers, administrators with skills and knowledge on how to develop lesson plans, create a classroom that is culturally responsive to the needs of our Black students, specifically our male students. The achievement gap continues to persist. Suspension and absenteeism rate is a concern, and we have to dig deep and determine why. And a lot of those things are contributed to their social economic world that they live in, the living world that they live in. And we have to really dismantle systematic biases and invest intentionally in our Black male students. And we're trying to do that. I know at our school we've had mentor programs where we had mentors come in to mentor our Black students, and specifically the male student. When I had Mr. Jackson come to my school, and he had a workbook that goes along with No More Excuses, Solutions for Educating Black and Latino Males, actually. And in that workbook, that was the framework of that whole premise was the framework for one of the after-school programs that we did as well. And one of those pages, along with the affirmation, but what he recognized and what he noticed, and even from his life itself with not having a father in the home, which many of our male students do not, that they take that on as that they have created that atmosphere. And those affirmations that he shared with those young people, it actually helped them to release some of that guilt or shame, or that they're not the problem that has created the atmosphere that they live in, whether it's in their home or their community. So we have to, as I said already, be intentional. Be intentional. Our Black children are underrepresented in different placement and different courses and programs. They're disciplined at a different level within our school system. And so when we start looking at root causes of why we're having this lack, and some of the root causes have already been identified, so it's now to move in action.
From my perspective, being in the classroom, how are our Black children faring? I think they're getting by. I think they could do a lot better. Yes, our children, they come into the classroom with numerous concerns, numerous issues that not necessarily happen in the school. They bring it with them to school.
Yes, we do have mentoring programs in our school for our black boys. We do have mentoring programs throughout the city for our young girls in grammar school and in high school. But I do think that our children need an extra push to stand out. And I think there are some of them, and I can't say all, I think some of them are just okay with just getting by. And in my classroom, I always say to them, don't just be good with a C. In my household, we have an issue with our girls when they bring home B's. And you know, and I bring that into the classroom. I treat my children in the classroom like I treat my kids at home. No, a D is not acceptable. A C is not acceptable. And if you're good with an F, then maybe you need to try again next year. So I think our black children need an extra push. They need more than just saying, okay, do this assignment, all right, you're good with the C. No, I'm not, we shouldn't accept it. And as parents, we shouldn't accept our children bringing home C's and be good with it. No, we want them to have A's and B's. And if we want them to have straight A's, then tell them, I want you to have straight A's. Because once we start instilling in them to do good, they will do good. But if you don't say something to them about having a C, say, okay, yes, you got a C, but I want to see a B next marking period or on that next exam. And I think a lot of how our children do is what happens at home. And if that you don't get that extra push at home, our kids don't feel like they have to put that extra push in the classroom.
Thank you.
The answer's interesting, right? So I'm listening to the answers as they come this way. And at first, Commissioner Teague talked about black students. Dr. Moody talked about all students. And that's what we do, right, as black folks, right? We worry about all students, right? But the reality is this. So when you look at, specifically for Paterson Public Schools, when you look at the test scores, math, I believe, is about, we're at about 14 and 19%. ELA is about 30%. Black students lag behind that. Now those scores are below state average. Black students lag behind that 14 to 19 and that 30%. Black boys specifically are the lowest performing subgroup in Paterson Public Schools. And so Principal Vaughn alluded to it earlier when we talk about equity. So they're not faring well at all. And so they are underrepresented when we look at AP courses, when you look at dual enrollment. Black students are underrepresented, even though they may have the academic skills to participate in those courses, but they are underrepresented. So in terms of how those students are making it to those courses, it's something that we actually have to look at. And so when you look at the school of the gifted and talented school, not many black students in there. I recall a mother bringing me her son's test scores, and he performed in the top 1% in state testing, but he could not get into the gifted and talented program until we had to walk it through to the superintendent because we couldn't understand why. we couldn't understand why he couldn't get into the program. Mm-hmm. That's exactly. And so we have to look at, when we talk about equity, right? If black boys are the lowest performing subgroup, show me in the budget what you're doing specifically for that subgroup to make sure that there's equity and make sure that they are thriving.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's safe to say that we are significantly behind. So if ands or buts about it, we need to see it for what it is and work on correcting it. When we exclude certain children from certain schools, and the only way they can get in said school is if their parent is in politics. There's one school in particular in Paterson, and I don't know if I want to say the name. I really don't care, but it is what it is, because the truth is the truth. The truth is the truth. If we're going to be truthful here, then we need to speak the truth and keep it real with the people. Everybody talks about Norman S. Weir, and I'm going to just put it out there. Everybody talks about how well Norman S. Weir is doing. Norman S. Weir is doing this, Norman S. Weir is doing that. Oh, they're the top scorer in the state. Oh, their test scores went up, their test scores went down. The average person can't get their child in Norman S. Weir. So the average child in the city of Paterson won't ever get a chance to experience Norman S. Weir. The average child in Paterson will never get a chance to experience the best school in the world, like School 28, because that's what I'm calling it. But whose child goes there? Whose children go to School 28? Some students that fare well can't get in. That's what has to stop, because we have to expand and allow children in who's struggling, because they may just need a little push. They may need a little encouragement, but they will not take a child in that may decrease their scores by a little bit. And I have a problem with that, because everybody and their mama that's in politics outside of Paterson, don't live in Paterson, kids go to Norman S. Weir. Can't get mine in. I have a problem with that. Some things we have to call it for what it is, and we need to see it for what it is, and that has to change, because your political influences, it depends on, you got to say on where your child goes. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. Your political influences and who you are, you have a say on what school your child goes to. You can get that. But Mary that lives on Hamilton Ave between Carroll Street and the Boulevard, whose child is exceptionally intelligent, she got to jump through hoops and loops to get her in a school that can challenge her. Instead of her digressing, she needs to be challenged, but because she got to jump through all these hoops and loops, she got to go to School 6. Now, I say that to say this. When you look at School 6 and you look at School 10 and you look at School 13, I'm going to bring it over that way. Why? You should all be storming the board meetings, demanding that what's on Getty Avenue, what's on Hazel Street, what's on Norman S. Weir, I don't even know what street that is, whatever street that's on, Van Houten. I'm gonna even go as far as AHA. You have to look at those things. And as parents, School 16, and as parents, you have to demand. It's time to stop asking, and you must demand that your child's school looks like that school. What's in that school is in your child's school. You have to start demanding those things, because when you just sit by and let it go, they're going to do it. The parents have the power. People, I'm telling you, you guys have all the power, and you must understand that. If you care about your children and you really care, the board meetings should be standing room only, especially considering what's going on. I can't say it enough because it's right in front of you, but you're going to go online for them Jordans. That's the problem that I have. You want to complain on the little blue app. I need you in the meeting. And although you come and you say what you need to say and you think we don't hear you, yeah, some of them is going in the ear and out the other, but nah, not with me. Because I'm going to go against the grain. I'm always going to go against the grain. I'm the one who jump out the box. Yeah, because I'm different like that. But I need these parents to get it's time for you to get tired. You need to be sick and tired of what your children are getting. And until you are sick and tired, it's going to continue. And then we talk about, oh, the charter schools take all our kids. Well, they offering stuff that we just not offering. So am I going to be upset about it? Absolutely not. Step our game up. We got to step our game up. And the parents, you have to get involved. I can't implore you. I keep saying it. It's like a broken record. It's important. You control the narrative. You have to understand that. You control it. These are your children. And until you get serious about their education, to heck with an I-17, I-16, the new Jordans, the this, that. The heck with that. It's about your child's education, because guess what? What's happening in this world right now? If they switch the switch today, our children would be so far behind and confused and not be able to compete. Then what? But I'm telling you, you got the power, parents, and it's time for y'all to stop asking and demanding. I'm all for the revolution.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for answering those questions. We're going to move right along quick. This is for anyone who wants to answer this question, so anyone on the panel can answer this question. What is the black community's role in educating the black child in Paterson? What is the black community's role in educating the black child in Paterson? That's for anyone.
So, Dr. Moody alluded to this earlier, Principal Vaughn alluded to this earlier. Our community has always been the nest, right? We've always cared about every child, right? Not to say that we don't care about our own, but as Commissioner Teague said earlier, other groups focus on theirs. We have to make sure that that we not only focus on all children, but we also focus on ours, right? We have a responsibility to make sure that culturally we are passing things down, like Dr. Moody said, making sure that we are advocating for our children, making sure that they are represented in the AP course or the dual enrollment course. So there's a huge responsibility. And it's not just parents, it's organizations, it's churches, it's our community. We have to hold our children responsible, we have to hold our parents responsible, our educators responsible. But we all have a stake in this. And so if we want to make sure that black boys are no longer the lowest performing subgroup, everyone has to get involved. We are our community. It is incumbent upon our community to make sure that our kids are excelling. Not just, all kids, but specifically, because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about black kids. We have to make sure that they are excelling.
I believe Commissioner Teague has to leave, so I want to give him the opportunity to respond to this question. What is the black community's role in educating the black child in Paterson? And if you can share any specifics, that'd be good.
Cool. Okay, so, first and foremost, within the home, I know when I was growing up, my parents would sit me down and give me history lessons. And, we talk about black history. I know we're quick to go with Frederick Douglass, Fannie Lou Hamer, Dr. King, but no, they would go a step further. They will go into ancient Kemet. And because a lot of times when we teach our black boys black history, we only stop at where they had chains and not where they were wearing crowns. So if children are only taught back in the day when they had chains and they were walking in chain gangs, in their mind, they're going to say, well, if we came from slavery, then how much more should we actually expect? But when you show them images of them sitting on thrones and running dynasties and running whole civilizations and showing them that, you know, Africa, Alkebulan, as they say, you know, started with us, that we were our own civilization. We were able to grow our own food. We were able to build our own infrastructure. We were able to do things for ourselves, and then encourage that young brother, that young sister, that, you know, there were queens that came before you. There were kings that came before you that looked just like you. Why do you think white America goes through all of this haggle about, well, it doesn't matter what color Jesus was? They go through all of that. If you don't think they care about what color you are, you go riding through Hackensack in the middle of the night, you and a group of brothers. Y'all get in a car and just ride, and the police will make you understand that they know the difference in colors. But if young black men could see an image of Christ, just as an example, in the image that he was described in Revelation, having, you know, woolly hair, having skin the color of brass, eyes that are red like fire, you know, if they actually see the true image and begin to understand, because there are some students, majority of are visual learners, and when you show them something and you give them something that they can actually focus on, you know, you can actually teach them that you come from a rich heritage. If you don't know where you come from, how in the world can you have an appreciation for it? And if you don't have an appreciation for it, how in the world are you going to respect someone else? Because you're going to say, look, I'm not going to hurt you because I know where I came from, and I know if I hurt you, that could do damage to all of the people that came before me to make a way for me to be able to be free now. So if I do something to hurt you and put myself in jail, I just undid all the work that my ancestors did so that I could walk free. So we start really breaking it down, I mean in the homes. If we start sitting down with our children and showing them this is some of the history that you come from. And you could even show them, you know, aunties, grandfathers, grandmothers, uncles, those who served in any capacity, and say, this is the heritage that you come from. This is your roots. This is where you are. So before you make that decision that could alter your life, look at your history. Look what your ancestors actually went through to get you to this point. And when we start doing that in the home, notice I'm saying in the home, start doing that inside the house, taking some time away from those iPads and tablets and cell phones and all those things, and just have time to sit as a family and learn those things and allow a child to begin to get some self-respect for themselves, not just because I'm black, but because I have a black history that's rich in culture. Because let me tell you something, slavery in and of itself is white history. How we survived it, that's black history. That's our story, and we can share that, but then we can also go hundreds of years earlier than that and show how there was a civilization that we were in control and we were doing it. And you know, and it wasn't running crazy. It was an actual dynasty. There were many, but there were actual dynasties and there were actual kingdoms, and we actually sat on thrones. And when you start sharing that information, it'll begin to change the mindset. It did it for me, it did it for many of my classmates. It could still work today.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else? What is the black community's responsibility in educating the black child in Paterson?
Well, to be honest with you, I have to say that it's our responsibility to educate ourselves first. We need to know what the issues are. We are in position, folks, at this table, and we are still having this conversation. We know what the superintendent's role is. We know what the teacher's role is. We are not holding them accountable. So we were educated, some of us, in the same system that we talk about. So we're trying to activate and motivate people who did not graduate high school, who went to school with us, and we're saying that they need to advocate. Advocate what? They don't know the system. We know the system. It's our job to teach. We're at step -1. We're not even on ground zero. Our first obligation is to teach our people what should be happening. We can't come to forums like this and ask people to activate because they don't know what to activate on. That's why our board meetings sound the way they do when they're at the microphone. That's why our city council meetings sound the way they do. So I would say, honestly, for me, the first role is to educate ourselves. I also hear Commissioner Simmons, and he's talking about what we, as the black community, focus on the black community. I get that we are educators for our whole entire community, and no, I'm not taking on the role of this is caring about others other than ourselves. We are a percentage of the population. The reality is our community will continue to use us if we don't educate us all. It is the same responsibility as any other community member in our community. That is to demand that we are holding our administrators, our board members, our teachers, our staff members, students, and ourselves responsible for ensuring that all students are prepared to read, write, numerate, and interpret the world around them. That's our responsibility.
We have time for one more response on that question.
Our Black community plays a vital role, but first and foremost, our community, our students need, when I say need, they need your love, your support, and your prayers. I say so often that I don't separate church from state. In the school where my families are faced with several tremendous hardship, trauma, grief, in the community where many are just trying to survive. So coming to school becomes a safe haven for them. There's so many times that I have to take parents in my office and just pray and tell my secretary, come in and pray with that family, because they come in with no answer or nowhere to turn or nowhere to go. And thank God that School 10 was fortunate enough to receive and become a full-service community school, where now some of those support systems are being put in place where that we can face mental health, where we can face crisis. I mean, a block away, a student, a block away, a person, was murdered while we were in school and dismissing students on a half day last year. So we are in the midst of crisis. And we're in the midst of crisis, not only in Paterson, but throughout the world that we live in. And what our Black students need and what our community leaders need to do is to care, show compassion, seek out solution, collaborate with the schools and the district leaders, continue to mentor, continue to listen. There's so many times that I have called on spiritual leaders to come into the school just to pray with me, just to pray with me as a leader so that I can go through and be able to stand strong, because it's a heavy weight that's on school administrators, district leaders, commissioners. That's a heavy weight, because we take on the weight of everything that's going on in our building. And in our building, there's little communities that's reflected on the outside community, and it's a safe haven. So we need your love, we need your support. I'm very appreciative of organizations like I Am Initiative, Reverend McDuffie, who has come in to give us support, adopting the school, and all the other spiritual leaders who have came and given support as well. But our students really need your love, they need your support, and they need to know that you care. And I say this so often to my teachers. I say it all the time. I can PD you the world. I can give you all kind of professional development. I can come model how to do the lesson, because I'm a teacher first. I can take a whole classroom. I can do the lunch duty for you. I can do all of those things. But what I cannot do for you is teach you how to care. That's the matter of the heart.
Thank you. We are now going to move into the next question. It's a piping hot question. With Blacks being 60% of incarcerated individuals in the state of New Jersey, what strategies are in place or being pursued to fight against school-to-prison pipeline in Paterson schools? Some of the direct causes of school-to-prison pipeline are inadequate funding, increased policing, and zero tolerance policies are all prevalent inside of Paterson schools. And that question is for each of you.
I guess I'm starting. It
is a piping hot question. But I'll say this, specifically for Paterson Public Schools, we do have restorative practices. We have partnered with community organizations like the Healing Collective. So there are some things that are happening and that have been happening that they need to strengthen. We need to strengthen those things and make sure that we are expanding those programs throughout the district. But there are some things that are happening that we want to see continue to happen. But in terms of zero tolerance policies, some policies need to be zero tolerance. Right, we can't have students coming to schools with guns, right? If there is a uniform policy, there's a uniform policy for a reason, right? We have to make sure that children are safe, that's first and foremost, right? So you might have a uniform policy because a school is in a district or an area where there are gangs, and we want to make sure that students aren't wearing colors that are going to get them hurt, right? So it's a work in progress. Like in terms of this restorative practices, I think we were at 19 out of 52 schools, and we need to make sure that it's expanded to all 52.
Thank you so much.
Well, earlier, Dr. Moody has specified the expectation for the third grade scores to be elevated to 100%. And that struck a chord with me because research shows that the prisons that are being built are based on the third grade test scores. I'll say that again. That the prisons that are being built or visioned to be built for profit are based on the third grade test scores. So when we talk about a pipeline to prison, it starts very early when those students are in kindergarten. As a teacher, Paterson always come up with innovative programs. It's a stick-to-itness that's my concern. And when I was a teacher, I was afforded the opportunity, funded through PEF, to go to Wesley College in Boston to look at a program called Open Circle, which helped to develop students' emotional intelligence. And that program, 2 teachers went. I went with another teacher, and then we went back and we piloted the program at school, at EWK, where I was a teacher at. And then we had continued training throughout the year with another district, Ridgewood Public Schools. Ridgewood Public Schools, we pilot with 2 teachers at EWK, but Ridgewood Public Schools implemented emotional intelligence program with all their kindergarten students. And just a little bit about emotional intelligence is that when they had the curriculum, you would look at it, oh, that's so simple, but it was role-playing on teaching students how to give compliments, how to receive compliments. When we look at some of the disciplinary infractions and some of the suspensions, some of those things have led from you bumped into me. You stepped on my new sneaker. So when you develop emotional intelligence, it helps a student to process and to understand, how do I respond to certain situations? And we're talking about in Ridgewood years ago, because I taught many years ago, they developed that skill in their kindergarten students. And so when we look back to the question about how do we fight against it, we have to dismantle some of the harmful disciplinary policies that are in place. And who does zero tolerance apply to, and for what child? Schools need more counselors, mentors, mental health specialists, and because it's a safe haven for the students. We must continue to look at, and Paterson is doing a good job with that, at the social emotional needs of our students. We have to continue to develop as I said, a whole world of emotional intelligence that we don't even talk about. And maybe that will help to help. And in some schools, we do have restorative practice. I said some schools. You look at school 10 data, I had chronic absenteeism, I had high suspension rate, I had all of that going on. And then I was asking, can I please have my staff trained for restorative practices? So many years later, we put that in the plan this year, but that's another conversation. So we have to have things being implemented to address the trauma. Our students are traumatized students, and guess what? We have traumatized adults leading our traumatized students as administrators and as teachers. And as we continue to look at this world that's around us, and if we're going to fight this fight and help, we have to really dig deep and look at the root causes of what's causing the problems for our students and address them.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Vaughn. I think that was very powerful. I want to just, since we're here in an educational forum and we're talking to the public, I want the public to understand that number. I did my dissertation on this work, the school-to-prison pipeline. We're saying 60% of incarcerated individuals in New Jersey are black. Does anyone know the percentage of blacks in the state of New Jersey? Between 12 to 15% of the population represents 60% of the prison inmates. So do you know who commits the most crimes in the state of New Jersey? White folks. Do you know who gets arrested the most? White folks. They go through a system. We both got arrested. We were both at the same club. We both urinated outside the club. I go to jail, he goes home. It's called systemic racism, and some of our policies and procedures that we stand by feed our kids into the system, push them out of school and into prison. Do yourself a favor, all our folks who are online and YouTube, type in students arrested from school and watch some of the incidents for yourself, how kids go to prison. A student changed his classroom, and now he was in a gym classroom that he was not normally in. The gym teacher said, "You don't belong here." He said, "I do belong here. I just came from my guidance counselor." He gets beat up, arrested, and put in jail. We don't have zero tolerance policies. The President of the United States told you, I can walk down Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and nothing will happen. If we have zero tolerance, if he shoots somebody, he goes to jail just like someone else who shoots somebody, a police officer, whoever. That doesn't happen. There's no such thing as a zero tolerance. It applies to some, but not others. So we have to be careful of what we're promoting here across the country in these positions of power that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And let me just add to that. Paterson Public Schools, I'm talking about the administration, they deal differently between when it comes to a student. The same student could do the same exact thing. The black student will be treated much differently than a Latino student. And I've witnessed this. I'm sure we all have cases where we've seen it, where we've been there, we've been on the phone, we've listened to conversations where we've seen one student get emotional counseling, or they're going through something. A black student, they just get tossed out of school. We've seen it right here in Paterson. And no need to act like we haven't seen it. We've seen it happen right in our schools here. So what do? We have to, as a black community, start being able to appreciate being black and respecting being black and saying, look, I'm pro-black. I'm not against anybody else, but I'm not going to have a problem saying that I'm pro-black, and start understanding and learning that the school-to-prison pipeline was something that was created from the very beginning. They designed this system for children to be ushered in, because why? They're making money from that prison system. So they got to find a way. If you got to be in school at a certain time. You got to stand in a straight line. You got to wear the same uniform. You have to move when this bell rings and move when that bell rings. You have to stand in line in the cafeteria. If you look at any prison system, it's set up the same way. But what makes schools different from the prison is that in the schools you're supposed to have people who actually care about the children. Them prison guards don't care about the inmates. They're there to do a job. We can't just say we're here to do a job. We actually have to show that we care because it has to be in us already. Understand that. You can't just grow to care for somebody. It has to already be in you. That's the thing. If it's not in you, there's no campaign that you can run that can create something that's not there. So if you do not genuinely care about the children in this school system, and you do not generally care about their education or their academic outcomes, it's not going to matter to you as to what happens to them after they leave high school. Dr. Hodges used to ask each student when we would have graduations, he would shake their hand and he'd say, what are you going to do? You know, what's your next plan? What's your next goal? And you would hear each student say, I'm going to this college or I'm going to that college. And he would commend them on that. It wasn't just merely just shaking hands and sending everybody on their way. He wanted them to be able to think at that moment, what's the next step? And I think that we have to go a little bit further to make sure that our children have that roadmap, but we first have to have our roadmap. As leaders, as district administration, what is it that we really want to see for our children, especially our children of color? All children, as I've heard, but especially for our children of color, what do we want to see? How do we want to turn this around?
Thank you all for answering that question. We want to move on to being able to get some questions in from our audience. This is from TJ Best. The question is, how much more money do you need to improve educational outcomes? Right now, Paterson Public School District is at about $32,000 per student, and the state is at 98% funding for Paterson. I used to think it was a funding issue, but my fear is even if Paterson got $40,000 per student, I don't think it would really help improve outcomes. Feedback.
Well, my feedback, some of that is semantics, and he knows I'll tell him to his face, because honestly, I'm not going to move away from the fact that we were illegally underfunded, because if you were supposed to receive a certain amount of funding at a certain time, and you were illegally stripped of that funding, you were never given a fair start. You were never given a fair shot to begin with. So you can't tell somebody who only has one leg to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. Like we went into this underfunded. And as the years went by and as costs increased across the board, that illegal underfunding continued. So even if, let's just say, 2023 to 2024 or 2024 to 2025, let's just say that year we were at 89% or 98% funded. If we go back to 2009 to where it all, because that's the thing, because remember, we're talking about root causes, right? We're talking about how it all got started. We cannot skip over how it started and then just get here and say, well, we're all right now. No, but because we were not all right all of those years, it trickled into this part. Not completely dismissing the fact that the money we have now, we could utilize it a certain way, this way, that way, but we can't ignore the fact that we were illegally funded, underfunded, and it had an impact on what happened in our district.
Wow, that was a great response. I do see both sides to that, and understanding where TJ's trying to come from, I believe, is saying that with the more funding, if we continue to do the same things, we will get the same exact results. So what are we doing to change that? But we cannot also not negate the fact that, yes, you talked about, I believe you were talking about Anna Talafaro. This was years ago. She was fighting for this same funding. And when we lost that funding, my father was a board member at the time. There were board members and principals who made decisions based on that lack of funding. Now, Ms. Vaughn and Ms. Taya can speak to how that impacted the schools, because now let's take away all the art teachers. Let's take away all the music teachers. Hey, we got to do one less ELA teacher. We got to do one less math teacher. So that impacts over a period of time how we conduct business. But I do see both sides. If we do get more funding and we finally get fully funded, what are we doing with it is the question too. So I'm not trying to set us up in a trap. I think it's a two-way conversation here.
I'm just going to say 3 words: equity, equality, stability.
I really don't know what else I can say. because
those three responses hit the nail on the head, right? We know we've been historically underfunded, and so we're starting from behind the 8 ball. But again, it's about, if you get more money, it's about how are you going to allocate those resources? What are you going to do differently, right? To make sure that, again, like I said, if black boys are the lowest performing subgroup, what are you going to do differently with more money to make sure that they are no longer the lowest performing subgroup?
Anyone else want to respond to that? All right. Got one more question from the viewing audience. This comes from Ms. Vivian Gaines. There's 4 questions here. Let me try to, everybody good? All right, here we go. How do you begin to diminish the divide that was mentioned? I believe and then here's the second question. Who is working at workshop meetings to get some of the answers needed? Question 3, what makes those 2 schools, I believe these schools we were talking about, what makes those 2 schools different, and how do we push for more schools to be of that caliber? We're going to give you...
Okay, so which divide? I want to make sure I understand it. The divide that was mentioned, what divide when we talk about the divide?
So the question was, how do you begin to diminish the divide? I'm guessing the divide that exists within the racial divide. Is that the racial divide? How do we diminish the racial divide that was mentioned? But let's look at the last 2. What makes the 2 schools, I guess there were schools mentioned, what makes them so much better, and how do we get other schools to meet that caliber? We'll focus on those 2.
So again, if we're talking about gifted and talented, and we're talking about Nomen Esweir, one of the things we talked about, and we've been talking about recently in the board meeting, is that not centralizing gifted and talented, right? So we grew up in a time where there was a gifted and talented class at every grade level, right? So if you do that throughout the district, more students have access to that programming. So that's an approach that can be taken. But then I think Ms. Vaughn talked about this, and Taya could speak to this as well, and we just kind of answered this with the funding. You have to have a specific certification to teach gifted and talented.
Okay.
So if we are receiving more funding, this again comes down to allocating that funding and making sure that you're allocating it in a way that you're addressing equity issues, so that we are making sure teachers are trained, students have more access to programming.
Did anyone else want to respond?
Oh, because I'm watching our live too while I'm sitting here. And Ms. Gaines said she's talking about the divide that's going on with the board members.
Okay.
A simple conversation can settle it all. As long as we pretend that there is no divide, and as long as the administration pretends that there is no divide, there won't be a conversation. A conversation needs to be had. I'm willing to have the conversation. But they have to be willing to have the same conversation and keep it real. Because I'm not going to have a conversation with you and you talking that nonsense. I'm just not going to do it. Because I know it's different when you know the plan, and it's different when you don't know the plan. But the difference with me, I know the plan. And I've set the plan. But the community is sit back and let the plan happen. I'm not here to play games with anybody at that, just the board. I'm just not. I'm going to say the things that needs to be said. I'm going to bring light to stuff that's happening that they want to throw under the rug. I'm not the one that's going to sugarcoat anything or allow you to treat me, and I can only speak for myself, as if I don't matter, because I do. And until we actually need a historical circle, the board. That's what we really need. We push it for kids. We need a historical circle. But because some of them don't like who running the historical circle, they don't want to sit. They don't want to be cohesive together, because it's not gonna work. You're always gonna have that divide until you have that real conversation. And my problem with people out in the community, throughout this whole city, we dodge real conversations. We dodge real conversations, and until we have those real conversations, we're gonna continue to be where we are. And there's nothing wrong with keeping it real with each other. There's nothing absolutely. I have more respect for you if you tell me, oh no, I can't do that because I'm gonna go get a job over here around the corner. I have more respect for you if you say that to me than try to sell me some nonsense that I know for a fact to be true. Because very, very rarely do I say anything without having my facts in order, because people like to eat you up when you don't have your facts straight. So a simple conversation can kill it all. We have the perfect person to bring us together, to allow us to engage with each other respectfully. But they don't want her to come back. They don't want Deborah Keys back. They don't want her to come back because of the color of her skin. So that's my problem. You have to pay attention to what is happening with this Board of Education, the vendors, the teachers, what's going on. I'm telling you, you want us to make the miraculous and be, the savior of all saviors. No, we need help. We need help, because if you don't see what's happening, and let me say this, because, now I'm going to be labeled as something, but I could deal with it. I'm going to say this. I am for every child in this district, regardless of your color or your nationality. But I'm going to tell you this for sure. Just like you go hard for yours, I'm going to go hard for mine. And every time we take this stance where it's about the black child, because we are so far behind, oh, why is it only about black children? It's not only about black children, because we're not making it only about black children. You are. And that's the real. When we sit down and have real conversations, I think this city can get back to the way it was. We can be teaching our children the way we were taught, because I think we turned out pretty darn well. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Darn is all right.
Okay.
Keep it there.
But I think we turned out okay. So they took out a lot of things that's important. Like, oh, you want my daughter to sign a paper, but you took penmanship and cursive writing out of her curriculum. So I had to teach her how to sign her name. No, it worked for me. We have to think about the things that have worked for us, but also implement the new and upcoming, because our children are going to be left by the wayside, and it doesn't seem like anybody really cares. And everybody out there in Facebook land and Instagram land, you know how passionate I am about the children. But for some reason, I don't know why, everybody think it's easy. It's not easy. This is a volunteer position, and I am in more meetings than the city council who get paid. I'm in more meetings throughout the whole year in a volunteer position, which I chose, because somebody said, well, that's what you chose. I can hear y'all, but I can hear you. You're right. But you, on the other side of that lens and on the other side of that keyboard, you talk the talk, telling me what I need to do But my question to you is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because I give you my seat. I'll give it to you. Yeah. Because okay? I'll give it to you because it ain't easy. But if you're passionate, it's for what it's for, then it's not hard work. It's heart work. So you can keyboard gangster, because I'll go back and forth. I love it. But we got to be serious about having a simple conversation will kill a lot of stuff that we are dealing with. A conversation, not only a simple one, but a real conversation. And that goes for elected officials, politicians, all of y'all. Y'all don't want to have the real conversation. I'm too, I don't know. But it is what it is. I'm not going to change my stance. I'm not going to change how I feel, because that's what it is. You talk about what we need to do. What are you doing? What are you doing? Because you're telling me what I need to do, but my question to you is, what are you doing? Aside from talking about it and complaining about it. You got to put your boots on the ground, and you got to get moving, and you got to come with some substance. Because all that if there's no substance behind it, it's for nothing. It's just to hear yourself talk. But I like to hear y'all talk. But yeah, a conversation absolutely with action. Like, you coming with a conversation, but you got to keep it real, and you got to have an action plan.
Yeah.
It ain't no just, we're going to just come back together and kumbaya. No. Because I got some stuff on my shoulder that I need to talk to you about. But we don't even want to do it in private. Right. But let me go to Facebook. I'm on it. Okay, we're better together. We this and that. Yeah. That's where I'm at. Like, keep it real with me, and I'm going to keep it real with you. Respect me, and I'll respect you. And that's where I'm at. I don't even want to talk no more.
Before, but I am grateful and thankful. It is 8:58. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, the panel's time, your time who is viewing. We just want to thank these panelists for coming out. Can you give them a virtual hand, a virtual applause? Those who are here, give each other an applause. I want to thank Commissioner Della McCall. She had a prior engagement, but she did make it out. She's here with us, but she came towards the end. I just wanted to acknowledge her presence. One of the things that From Talk to Tangible is seeking to do is, and I want to thank the team that is here. I have a team that worked with me to put this together. I want to thank the media team that came out here and said, I'll help you live stream it, Pastor. And I want to thank, thank you very much. And I want to thank just the team that I have put together, Miss Paula, Alford, Sister Tiffany, Jacobs. I just thank them for being a part of this. One of the things we're going to do with this series, From Talk to Tangible, is we're going to try to document some of the things that were put here. We're going to document some of the things that were identified as some of the issues and the problems that we are dealing with. We want to also document some action plans. What were some of the suggestions made here in the panel? What were some of the challenges that were given by the panel to us, the community, and also challenge us as a community? What are some of the things we can do? We want to put these things in a tangible document. So one of the things we're going to be doing, our next step with this particular panel discussion, is we're going to create a sheet that kind of outlines some of the things that were said here today, outlines some of the suggestions and the approaches and the solutions that were proposed. We're going to attempt to put this on a document so that we can have this document to measure and keep us accountable, because one of the things that I heard throughout this panel is there has to be a level of accountability from everyone. Everybody has to be accountable and has to be willing to hold each other accountable, and we can't be offended when others decide to hold us accountable. Holding someone accountable is a sign of love, is a sign of respect. And I'm hoping that as we work to create this document, that we will use this document as a means to hold each other accountable. I just want you to know that in a little bit, about a month from now, From Talk to Tangible, we'll have another panel discussion, and on that panel will be community organizers and activists. So I'm asking that you all stay tuned as we continue to try to address some of the issues that are specific to Paterson, and even more specific to Black Paterson, how we can create an agenda so we can move from a place of just talking to really identifying some tangible solutions. Again, I want to thank Commissioner Val Freeman. Thank you. You look tired, but we thank you. Okay. I thank you. I want to thank Commissioner Simmons. Yes. I want to thank Ms. Snell. Did I say it right? Amen. I want to thank our principal, Principal Vaughn. We thank God for her. Dr. Moody, thank you for the fire. We thank you. Thank you. And our Commissioner Teague, he had to leave. Is he here? I think he had to leave early, right? He had to step out. Yeah. Well, we thank him. Yeah, we thank him. And we thank you for tuning in. And we pray, I know we started off with some audio issues. We pray that we were able to fix those and most of you were able to hear. But if not, we will try to handle those and make sure that's not an issue next time. But please be on the lookout for a document that will basically outline what was here discussed today, what were some of the issues discussed, and what were some of the challenges that were put forth. I know one of the things I'm challenging myself to do is I want to hold myself accountable to come into a certain amount of board meetings a year. I want to be able to come out. I have children that they don't go to public school here, but I pastor children who are in the public schools. So I want to make sure that I can be abreast to those issues as well. I thank you all for tuning in. God bless you and good night. One more time, let's give everyone, God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. Everyone have a safe and a blessed night. God bless.